Jimi Somewhere's Nothing Gold Can Stay is easily my favorite album of the year thus far. The debut album runs at about 50 minutes, and everything on it is gold, regardless of the title. An accurate description for it is hard to find, because Jimi Somewhere's from Norway, so he's had to outsource his influences, but if I could describe it, I would label it as cinematic. This likely comes from Jimi also pursuing filmmaking outside of music. While he is clearly influenced by emo, punk, hip-hop, and alt-rock, his lane in terms of contemporary genres is definitely bedroom pop, although not so bedroomy due to his cinematic vision. Before diving in too deep, I would like to start from his beginnings in small-town Norway and continue until we circle back to the February release of Nothing Gold Can Stay. In an interview with DIY Mag, he shared that quote, "There's quotes of me in the local newspaper when I was 10 saying that I wanted to become an artist," unquote. So it seems like Jimi's reality was his dreams in childhood in small-town Norway. Before he indulged in American music, he was surrounded by church music and his father's taste in English rock bands, namely quote, Pink Floyd and the Beatles, unquote. Past these childhood influences, Jimi would look at what was happening across the pond, first looking to pop punk, but then towards hip-hop acts such as quote, Odd Future, Brockhampton, Joey Badass, and Mac Miller, unquote. That second name, Brockhampton, stands out to me the most because Jimi has shared that the band's de facto leader, Kevin Abstract, has been his greatest influence since he released MTV 1987 in 2014. The poppy tones, introspective lyrics, and cinematic production seen on MTV 1987 were all applied to the shared vision of Jimi and his childhood best friend and now producer, Milo Orchis, on Jimi's debut EP, Memoria. Under his own imprint, Inquiring Minds, Jimi released Memoria on his 18th birthday in August 2016. Retrospectively, the project was a great debut, but it merely comes across as premature, unfocused, and overly influenced when compared to his current music. The EP is simply Jimi putting out his music for anyone that may have heard it. Ultimately, Memoria feels like a brainstorming session with many of their ideas being duds, most specifically the interspersed rap verses and incorporation of hip-hop that did not fit the work's sound. The airy vocal mixing, the anthemic vocal layering, and the overall cinematic production were all gold though, and I am glad that Jimi realized their potential and kept them within his playbook. Although I'm highly critical of Memoria, it is only because of the high bar that Jimi Somewhere has set for himself now. Between Memoria and his next project, Jimi would take nearly 2 years off from music, with the tracks Waking Up and Fall Down, a collaboration with Norwegian singer Henna Mion, being his only output during this time. Waking Up feels like a culmination of Memoria's highlights, and for that, it is an enjoyable release. On Waking Up, a thematic staple of Jimi's work today began to take shape, with that being nostalgia, although it is ironic that he was nostalgic at age 19. On Fall Down, Jimi Somewhere would take on a very poppy sound backed by electronic instrumentation, and although it is interesting, it is a sound that Jimi has yet to return to. After these singles and graduating high school, Jimi and Milo would pull all of their money together to fly out to Los Angeles to check out the music scene, and while there, Jimi was signed to the indie label Next Wave Records. With the goal of recording as much music as possible, what came of it was Ponyboy, an EP released in April 2019. I love the work, and it feels that through his trip to Los Angeles, Jimi's vision was truly realized and his entire sound was upgraded. The instrumentation is crisp, the production is extremely focused, Jimi's delivery reaches new heights, and it feels cinematic. It also directly indulges on the theme of nostalgia that Jimi dabbled in on Waking Up, as the entirety of the project seems to be a look back at his adolescence. The project's title, Ponyboy, reflects both the nostalgic theming of the album and Jimi Somewhere's fascination with American culture, as it is named for Ponyboy Curtis, the protagonist of the novel and film The Outsiders. The Outsiders is now viewed nostalgically under rose-tinted glasses because even though tragic, it idealized greaser culture. In a change of events, many of Jimi's current fans were exposed to the project by Kevin Abstract after he shared their work on social media platforms and met up with Jimi Somewhere during his time in Los Angeles. This cosign was extremely important as it both legitimized Jimi as an artist and incorporated him into the LA scene, even if he was still based in Norway. After the release of Ponyboy, Jimi would spend 2 years developing a sound in preparation for Nothing Gold Can Stay, doing this by delivering 5 singles and a multitude of features. He began with his most popular song to date, Never Cared, with fellow Norwegian artist Boy Pablo, who he toured with in 2018. The song just feels like a bedroom pop hit. It is emotional and nostalgic, and the pair have amazing chemistry together. It is deservingly Jimi's most popular song. After his work with Boy Pablo, the following singles saw Jimi Somewhere heavily experimenting, with Dusk leaning into electronic instrumentation, Benton Way working with new vocal delivery, and Backseat working with piano and a new style of beats. By the time Jimi had put out his last single predating his Nothing Gold Can Stay output, Selfish, his sound felt really fleshed out and polished, even if Ponyboy had already been great.
Nothing gold can stay. Nature's for screen is gold. Her heart is hued.
Reciting the poem of the same title by Robert Frost and The Outsiders, Ponyboy Curtis tells Johnny Kidd that quote, "Nothing gold can stay." unquote. To continue the Outsiders theming across Ponyboy, Jimi Summer uses this quote as the title of his debut studio album, and the album encapsulates the feeling of the poem by Frost. On the album, Jimi shared that it was his quote, whole adolescence wrapped up in 50 minutes. It's an album about the undeniable fact that everything ends, unquote. The album opens with the artist James Quartz delivering a monologue about how we must move on from our past. While something like this would usually act as an album's final track, it sets up that this album will be a retelling of Jimi's past to explain why it's been so hard to move on. The album is consistently great from start to finish, and this comes from Jimi Summer making bold choices in both his instrumentation and vocal delivery throughout, while also maintaining a style he has held since Ponyboy. He goes in a lot of directions with his album, from pop ballads to pop rap tunes, but I expected this because it represents his whole adolescence. Its features, being Casey Hill, who is most notable for her feature on Travis Scott's Rodeo, Mile Orchis, and rapper John Waltz, are all worthwhile. My favorite tracks off of the album are Bottle Rocket, Jesus, and In My Car because of their themes of unrequited love. Most importantly, I feel that Jimi achieved his ultimate goal, which was to make a cinematic album. Looking forward, Jimi should take some time off for himself as he always does and return with something exciting. I wish him the best.